This video is going to serve as a general overview of all of the different types of ropes used within show skiing. Now, it is certainly not an exhaustive list with all the variations in team size and what teams are putting out on the water. There's certainly going to be differences between what your team might do and suggestions that I have here. However, this should be targeted at the general average team within the show ski community, different types of ropes that are needed, and the lengths and the different styles that are there. This will be one of the longer videos in the series, so my suggestion is look down in the description below on YouTube and click on the chapter marker and jump to the type of rope that you are most interested in. Let's get started. Pyramid ropes. Lots of variations, lots of different kinds. This is a very typical 4-tier pyramid set. Let's look at a couple of hallmarks of this, kind of from big picture starting and then narrowing down into some more of the details. First of all, notice the color coding in place here. Very important so people don't get confused about the tiers. These are second tiers here in red. Then we see blue, solid blue for third tier, and then a mix of blue and red for the fourth tier combining together. So these are, you want to make it very obvious. Some people like putting tape or other paint indicators on each of the tiers as well. That's up to you. Just make sure that however you're doing that, it isn't going to get in the way of the ropes peeling off for your starts and everything. I've seen some people who use tags that are larger, and those tags can get in the way of the coils as they're peeling off of the skier's hands. So color coding is a really great way to do this. Typical 4-tier set. Let's jump in and look at some of the details of this. As we jump over here to the first tier, we have a very standard 12-inch handle. I would not recommend using 15-inch handles here. They're too big when they fall down in the water if there's a crash, so you got a very standard 12-inch handle. Totally optional are these long end caps. These are probably 10 or 12-inch end caps here. Nice if you can afford them on there, and they do help if there is a crash or a fall. It helps from legs or arms that may hit these handles from getting abraded, so that's very nice to do. What we're looking at for length right here, for most teams, very standard rope. You're looking at a 5-foot handle section. You're looking at a 70-foot main line for a total of 75 feet. Doesn't mean your team has to do it that way. Some teams like to go longer and they use shorter trunks, or other teams throwing up really big pyramids who are investing heavily in trunk lines are actually going much shorter than this. I have seen some of these lines as short as 50 feet. And so the theory is less rope coming off of all of your individual skiers, especially some of those climbers that are younger and smaller and they're trying to hang on to a lot of coils of rope. They use some shorter main lines. There is a downside. You can go too short. So if you go too short, and let's say you are doing something like a 3-4-3, and you are down in that 50-foot main line mark or 50-foot total rope mark, and now you're trying to hook all of that to one trunk, you're probably going to have an issue because now you have too much inward or centered pull on that. So again, if you are new to this and if you are in doubt, I would just recommend making all your ropes or your base ropes 75-foot total, and that's a good place to start. And if you want to shorten later, you can figure that out as you go on. All right, let's jump into the other tiers. So as we look at this right here, this is a second, third, and fourth tier example. Now, some people are probably wondering, well, what is this thing down here? Let me explain. Both of these red ropes at the bottom are second tier ropes. For most teams, all you need is the braid. Some teams that are doing 4 tiers or larger, especially when you start getting into double top 4 tiers and 5 tiers, their center climbers on second tier prefer to have this type of a grip. So let's talk about this one first. This is the oddball. You don't have to do this. This is a full size 12-inch handle. Some teams use 10-inch. I've also seen 8-inch. I've seen all the way down to 6-inch. Although usually you want to be able to give those climbers right there in those center positions the ability to put 2 hands on if possible. So I don't know if I'd go much smaller than 8 inches on this. Again, nice rubber end caps, rubber tubing right here. If you can see that, there's even rubber tubing on this to protect anybody who might fall out the front from getting abraded. And then you are looking at an 18-inch flat braid coming after that. For those people in the center, they will often, if you see them live being recorded in a show or a tournament, you will see them with one hand on the handle right here and another hand somewhat out here at the start of the braid. And that seems to give them a really sturdy grip, and some people prefer that. But again, these are optional and typically for your bigger, heavier pyramids. For almost everybody else, for your second tiers, a nice braid. There are some choices going on here for the team that I shot this photography from. They have a flat braid for most of this with a twisted or spiral braid only at the end. That is more of an indicator so that their climbers don't need to look at the braid. They can feel where they are. And if they're sliding back, adjusting their position, and they start hitting the spirals, they know they are getting near the end of the braid. Some teams prefer to have this entire length as a spiral braid all the way down, and some teams reverse it, and they'll do spiral for most of it with a flat braid at the end. Go to the section in the video dedicated to braids for more discussion on this. For this particular team, they have decided to do something a little bit different, and they've got their second tiers with a 36-inch braid, and then they are doing a stagger as they go from tier to tier of only 12 inches as they go longer and longer. That's a personal preference for this team, certainly not something your team has to do and not something that all teams do. For the main lines for these ropes, make the base rope first, get all of your first tier, ropes set, and then make your second, third, and fourth tier ropes so that just the beginning of the braid is right where your climbers would be when they're sitting on shoulders, when they're sitting on the shoulders of the bases. And you want those right up there. And so there is no magic number to this because every team's a little bit different. And so I can't give you an exact measurement on how to make these main lines until you actually get your people there, have your bases hang on to their ropes in a comfortable, position, pretend they're skiing, and then measure how long your main line should be to put this part of the braid at a good tension right where your climbers are when they're relaxed and sitting on the base's shoulders. So there's an overview of a standard pyramid set. Again, lots of variations that you can have on that, but if you are not sure of what to do, this is a really great set to create for your team. Prebuilt ropes. What you see in front of you right now is a good example of a set of pre-built ropes with some options in there, which I'll explain in just a moment. For those of you making ropes, my personal opinion, other than making a good braid, making a set of pre-built ropes is probably the hardest thing that you have to do. More than anything, these ropes need to be spot on. In my show ski career, you, of course, see a one-off jumper or a one-off footer here or there get serious injuries. Of course, those are some pretty dangerous acts. To me, the sleeper act that has had more injuries in it than any other one that I have ever seen are pre-builts. Either because of bad pinning from the boat, people not paying attention and spotting well on the dock, or yes, even what you see in front of you, bad rope making where the ropes aren't spot on. To me, if you are making a brand new set of pre-built ropes and they haven't been retied or readjusted for length at least 6 times before you get to your first tournament with them, you are not doing your job. They are really tough to make and very, very time consuming. So just take that as a caution. Let's break down what you're seeing here. So this is a pre-built set that obviously with the rest of the ropes that would be in it could accomplish Many, many different types of pre-built configurations off the dock, including regular 3-tier, 3-2-1 pre-builts. It can accommodate double top 3-tier pre-builts, even a 4-tier pre-built, or Prestos of 2 3-tiers into a 4-tier. All accommodated within this set. Also within this set, this team has the option if they want to do their pre-built strapped or with handles. Most of what they do in every show is strapped. However, at times they work on, say, like a pre-built hot pickup, and they have that as an option. So, they have the diamond style, as explained in a previous video, diamond style strap doubles ropes as bases here, and then they also have handles that match that length. One thing to draw attention to looking at this picture is the color coding across. Obviously very different here. While these look like pyramid bases here, these are a very different color from their regular pyramid bases, so they stand out and everybody knows that these are only for pre-builts. Color coding in the braids throughout here. 2nd tier, 3rd tier color coded, and 4th tier. And if you go back and look at the section on their regular pyramids, these braids are all different colors, completely different colors from their regular pyramid set. And that's done very intentionally. Again, color coding, trying to help those skiers that are on the run and grabbing ropes quickly at times, perhaps in a show or tournament, and so they don't confuse and grab the wrong rope. That would be horrible, and that's where stupid injuries happen. So let's jump in and talk a little bit more detail about the ropes that you're seeing here. As you look at these, as I mentioned, they have the option of either doing strapped or handles. Now, to try to take some of the effort off of you, one of the things that I have done with this team is that these doubles ropes right here, these strap doubles ropes, can also work for pre-built bases. And they're all the same length. So they have a very large supply of these type of ropes right here that are all the exact same length and made the same. Diamond style handle, 5-foot section, main line made out of poly E or show ski tack. And because they are also used for doubles and at times star doubles or small lines or whatever, they're all the same and they're not very long. They're only 60 feet. And that comes from strap doubles for in lines, and also star doubles. You want to be as short as you can without getting too much prop wash and just long enough to be behind, obviously, the wake of the boat. So these are also short for pre-builts, and they just use longer specialty trunks for their pre-builts then to get them further back behind the boat. This is a pretty standard, just like a regular pyramid base, 12-inch handle right here. Little bit of rubber end caps here to help from chafing and skin, getting skin rash and all that kind of thing. Good poly E show ski tack main line. And then these have been matched to fit over and match these ropes. They're not used as often, but you now have that option if you want to make them. Best way to make them, have your guys go and stand, make a 3-2-1 pyramid, climb it on shore, with them in straps, have them strapped in, have them be comfortable in that 3-2-1 pyramid, build the whole thing, have your climbers sit up there, just lock it up, and then bring one of these next to it, stretch it tight, and have them hang on to that as well, where they'd be comfortable hanging on to, and then mark where the end of your main line would be. So these are kind of an oddball length, where these are 60 feet on the dot. These are a little bit off of that because they need to blend in with this base rope over here. All right, let's take a look at the braids. So the braids that we have here, obviously color-coded again, very clear. 2nd tier, 3rd tier, and 4th tier. Just like their regular pyramid ropes, their regular set, we start off with a 36-inch braid for the 2nd tier, and then each of the braids going longer is just a 12-inch difference. Again, not something that every team does. A lot of teams start off with a 24-inch braid, and then there's a bigger gap between these. Yes, that means that the 4th tier is quite long. As mentioned before in the pyramid section, they use a flat braid here, and then having the spiral or twisted section at the end is a kind of a tactile way for the climbers to feel they're getting near the end of their rope. Somebody I'm sure is going to ask, what's all this different tape for here and this color coding going on and these marks? These are marks for the individual climbers. Spend a lot of time, and I would recommend you do this 2 different ways. Climb your 3-2-1 pre-builts on shore, on dry land. Send up a marker, permanent marker, with the climbers, and they can mark where their hand position should be or approximate where it should be. Before you send it out in the water, though, have them do this in a sitting position on the dock. Pre-build the pyramid on the dock, get everybody comfortable, have somebody go out holding all 6 of the ropes in a 3-2-1 pyramid, just have them walk out in shallow water, or a boat can pull them out a little bit if needed, if it's deep there, and give them just a little bit of tension, not enough to pull them forward, but so they have a little bit of tension on the ropes and they can feel where they're going to come tight, and have them check these markings again so that they know where to grab. Yes, some teams individually assign each rope to their climbers. Depends on how you want to run that, but teams that are really serious about pre-builds often do that. Even though you can make the ropes completely identical, every person is a little bit different on where they grab, where that tension is when those ropes come tight. So just some thoughts there of what you might want to do with these ropes. Main lines here, again, there is no standard length. You match to the pre-built bases. Make sure that you climb it, have the climbers sitting on shoulders of the bases. Bases should have tight ropes. If you're a strap team, they should be in their harnesses, and then pull the main lines tight while the climbers are sitting there so that this section of the rope right there is where they're grabbing and they have some tension while they're sitting on shoulders. And that's how long you make your main lines. Strap doubles ropes. Pretty basic. Definitely need to watch the video on how to make the diamond style handle, which is right here. Make a bunch of those. They should all be 5 feet long. Attach them up to a main line made of high quality poly E or Shosky tack rope. How long should they be? Well, a lot of variation there, depends on what you're using them for. Kind of the rule for strap doubles is you want to be as close to the boat as possible. I've seen some people ski as short as 50 or 55 feet. Less rebound on the rope, that kind of thing. In the case of this team, these ropes serve a lot of purposes. The same set of doubles ropes, all made the same, work for star doubles. They work for strap lines, staggered strap lines in a big act, and they also serve as pre-built base ropes. They're all made at 60 feet total, so it's 55-foot main lines and 5-foot diamond-style handle sections. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way. That's how I tend to do it. And then different trunks are set up and sometimes different leaders for what is being there. So say a star doubles couple grabs this, they're just going to ski right off of this rope. If we have a line, they're going to add some short trunks. If it's staggered, there'll be a combination of trunk lines and leaders or leader lines attached to each of these individual ropes and color-coded. See that video for how to do that. And then long trunks for when these are used in pre-built pyramid configurations. Trios ropes. A little bit different than some of the other standards that I use. This is a design that I got years and years ago from the Cap City water ski team. I really like it, and teams that I go and help tend to really like it as well. And it comes from the skier's point of view. You'll see why in just a moment here. But the design that I use helps pull the 2 base skiers in trios together. Here's how that looks. You get 2 diamond style handles. Again, check out the video for making the diamond style doubles handle. Also can be used for trios. Some nice rubber tubing here is great to keep feet chafing from the person who's doing the maneuvers up top. And a nice 6-inch handle right here is always good. Total, this entire thing is made out of, good quality poly E or show ski tack, and total length is the standard 75 feet. However, you don't have the normal 5-foot handle section with a 70-foot main line. Here's what it looks like. When you look at this picture, it's hard to see, so I'm going to try to use the magnifier to point some things out. If you see this knot right down here, this is 15 feet out from the handles. I've experimented over the years with different lengths, going down to 10 feet or 8 feet, or going way out to 25. 15 feet seems to be a really good sweet spot for these two separate lines to merge. It gives you, as a skier, one hook to each of these handles, it gives you a little bit of inward tug while you're doing lifts and helps keep you together. If you make this V and you shorten this up to somewhere about in here, it tends to give you too much inward pull, and especially going around corners, you tend to ski over each other. So this is both from rope making experience and skier experience, the best recommendation I can give you. So how is this actually made? Well, you make the diamond style handle section following the directions that are in my other video that I put out, but instead of making it where it ends at 5 feet, you make it out of, and to be on the safe side, for the first one, I use 25 feet of rope, just so I do not run out. Basically, that gives me enough rope to make the handle up here, get the handle finished, have this 15-foot long line, and plenty of rope to tie in right here. So I go somewhere 20 to 25 feet in length for making just one individual handle section, and it just has then this, long tail, this 20-foot plus tail coming off of it. Then I make the other handle section, and I don't end it. It is literally the rope going all the way out to the end. And so that other one then is going to be 75 feet total. So even once I have the loop at the end of it, which you kind of see right down here, I kind of threw that in at the bottom of the picture. So I add a couple of extra feet, so I'm probably, once I make this, I'm typically leave it on the spool, and I spool it, bring it right off the spool of rope, and then make it longer, and I get it out to 77 feet total, use the end 2 feet to make the loop here. And then after that is all done, I will come and I will tie in the other handle section that I made right here. And if you go back to the basic knots video, you definitely want to use the permanent knot, as I called it. Not the one that comes out. You need the permanent one right here, and have somebody help you. You need an extra set of hands to do this, and make sure a person holds these two handles even while you tie this knot and cinch it down. This seems to be a great way to do this. I have seen variations where people will make 2 5-foot diamond handle sections up here, and right about here, they'll put loops in the rope near the end at the 5-foot mark from the end. They'll make loops there, and then they will thread these on. My only caution with that, it's really nice because you can take the handles off and put them back on if you need to, or replace them. Make the loops tiny, as small as you can, because the bigger loops tend to catch when this rope is feeding out of the hands of the skiers. Jump ropes. Lots of variations on jump ropes. This is a pretty standard one that you see here. And one thing I want to get out of the way right away is don't let this picture deceive you if you already looked at this section on pyramid braids. This is not a pyramid braid. The picture is deceiving. This is not nearly as thick as a flat or spiral pyramid braid. It is actually half the thickness. It is made with fewer strands. So I need to get that out of the way right away. What are some characteristics of this jump rope? 12-inch handle. That's pretty standard. I wouldn't do anything different. While you don't have to do it, very nice to have the long rubber end caps. These are 12-inch end caps. that are on there. That's great for the jumpers going over that are wrapping the rope around their body to keep from chafing and fraying their wetsuits and also getting burns if they crash. So very nice safety feature to have. Would highly recommend that. The braid. It can be a flat braid. It can be a spiral braid. It can be more of the standard macrame style braid. Any of them will work. You don't need them as thick as a pyramid braid. One of the things I do change though is most of these that I see being made standard for show teams have a 5-foot long braid on them. One of the things I always request, I don't make these myself typically, I just don't do braids anymore, they're too time consuming. That's kind of a message you're getting throughout these videos. I would reach out to the folks that do this every day and have them make these good quality braids. I ask for mine to be longer though, any team I'm on. And it's really for what experienced show skiers are going to laugh at when they hear this, but for a really stupid reason. When you have what I would call the intermediate experience of jumpers, so they're kind of intermediate, skill level, and they start having to cross quickly during shows underneath ropes to get back in position for their next jump. And if they don't pull up quite all the way to the end of that 5-foot braid, or even if they are on that 5-foot braid, they sometimes click skis while they're skiing. And I have seen this happen so many times in my career where those intermediate skill levered jumpers are all of a sudden just swimming in the water during a show, or even worse, a tournament, for no reason than they were cutting under the rope and they tapped tips and tails. Really stupid reason to fall. So that's why I always ask for an extra foot or two on jump braids so that you don't have that issue and they can cross under without fear of tapping skis. The rest of the rope, main line needs to be adjusted, but typically people run 75 feet total, but that will depend again how long your braid section is. So in the case of this team, they have 68-foot main lines on their jump ropes with near 7-foot braids on them. They're supposed to be 6 and they're a little bit longer, and so that's what they end up using there. So I think this is a great quality. Again, color coding in the braids is important. Try to make it something unique. Don't make braids that maybe if you have trickers that have a bunch of trick ropes on your team that have braids and stuff coming off of a standard handle like this, make sure that those braids don't match so these are easily identifiable to all of your team members. Let's talk barefoot ropes for a little bit. So barefoot rope is generally fairly, uncomplicated here. This particular rope you're looking at has a 15-inch handle section. 12 inches would be just fine. You probably don't want to go any smaller than that. Has nice tubing, clear tubing here with end caps, short end caps here, and nice clear tubing coming all the way down and quite a ways out the handle section. One of the things that this is nice for, when I come to a team and if I'm working on barefoot ropes, I try to make them as universal as possible so they can be used for a lot of the different variations of barefooting. In this case, every one of these handles could be used for deep water starts, whether they be forward or backward. That's what the nice clear plastic tubing does. It keeps your footers' ankles and shins from getting abraded when they're doing deep water starts. For the team that I borrowed this from for this example, this is a 5-foot standard handle section, and their main lines actually happen to be a little longer. They're 95-foot main lines with a 5-foot handle section to give a total of 100 feet. That is a choice of this team. Now, some of the pros and cons of that. Pros, you can use this for a lot of different stuff. And so these aren't just used for a barefoot line. These handles are also used in the barefoot demos or barefoot starts act as well. Oftentimes with no leaders and no trunks. And so they might be doing barefoot flyers, a jump start, something like that with these. They're certainly used for the 2-ski bomb out line as well. Again, all these with no need for leaders or trunks because they're at 100 feet. So what about some of that more specialty stuff? Let's say somebody's going to do a barefoot circle, or they're going to do barefoot tricks and they need a toe hold. That's where I typically build for a team one-off ropes. And so this team has a large number of these that are used throughout the show. And again, used in all of those different acts at 100 feet. And then for those times they need, say, a toe hold, or they need a short rope for a barefoot circle around the jump in the ballet pattern, where the pattern's really tight, that's where we're going to make more of a one-off, or just 2 or 3 ropes that might have toe holds in them, and they're significantly shorter at 60 or 75 feet, something like that, whatever the skier needs. And they will obviously be very different color than these ropes right here that are the general purpose barefoot ropes. Looking closer at the handle, one of the questions I always get asked, should these barefoot ropes have floats on them? I'm going to tell you in general, no. These ropes are actually older right here, and there used to be floats right here, where I'm showing you with the magnifier right there. There used to be a 12-inch float on every one of these, and the question you should ask yourself is, it costs more, and why do you need it? These ropes generally aren't a releasable act for the most part, so if you're not releasing the rope into the water, what do you need a float on the handle for? These should always be connected to something, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. The other part is they get abused a lot and they get dragged at high speed through the water, and in this case, all the floats have torn off. Now, that changes when you get, again, to those one-off ropes for somebody who might be doing, say, a toe hold in your barefoot demo act. In that case, yes, in the handle section with a toe hold, probably going to have floats on that one. It could be released. There's always the possibility it might sink and you might lose that expensive handle. So there you might want a float or two, whether you put it out here at the end of the handle section or you put it in here as part of the V of the handle. It doesn't matter, but that's the only time I would put floats on a barefoot rope. Ballet ropes and swivel ropes. Why am I lumping them together? Well, because they should be the same, at least as far as your team is concerned. Now, you will have some swivel skiers, especially those that are experienced or even competitive level, that they will have unique needs, maybe for star swivel or something like that within your show. Let them bring their own rope. They may want a very specific handle. They may want a certain type of toe hold within it. They may want no toe hold. They might want a cable style or Spectra style mainline. Let them figure their own stuff out and let them bring their own rope for that. For the case of this part of the video, we're talking about ballet line ropes and swivel line ropes, or your general purpose swivel ropes that your team would use. So let's jump in. Obviously the ropes here have a toe hold on them. Those are the examples that I had handy to do photography for. You may have a team that does not do toe holds at all, in which case you may want the in between the legs or butt hold ropes or whatever you call that. Some people call it thigh hold. Whatever you want to call that, different style of rope. If you don't need the toe hold, by all means you can have those made up. Let's talk about the general stuff though that goes in to these ropes. Number one, typically a 12-inch handle. When you get the 15s, it's easier for some of the maneuvers for some of the ladies. However, also be aware that with that big 15-inch handle, anytime somebody falls, what are always bad ropes in a ballet line coming across or a swivel line are now made worse by a larger handle. So I would suggest that you get 12-inch ropes, no matter which type you're building, whether it be toe hold or it be butt hold ropes, it doesn't matter. I would still just go with a 12-inch handle on there. Certainly, if you can afford them, getting nice end caps, and right here you can see the rubber tubing on there. Really nice to, keep people from getting their skin abraded and whatever. Toe holds, materials. You need to talk to the people on your team about that. Do they like the neoprene padded ones? Do they like the canvas strapped ones? You need to talk, and I would just go with a majority vote. In no way should you be accommodating both types. Majority rules, get what they want, and go with it. Quality rope, again, is going to have some nice rubber tubing along here as well, in case anybody gets caught up in it. And here's one of the few times I do recommend, after the braid, out of the way, Small floats are great, like a 10-inch float is really nice to have on there. Yes, they are going to tear off over time and they require some maintenance. The foam in these things is subject to UV degradation, so the longer they're left outside in the sun, the quicker they're going to crack. Once they start cracking, just getting dragged through the water tends to peel back the foam and they will start coming off. You should keep an eye on this, and if you see the ends start to crack either here or here on either end, get some electrical tape, wrap tightly around it. It should hold. Duct tape works as well. If you can find some black, duct tape or whatever color matches your floats, just to keep them on there. So those are some recommendations for maintenance on that. How long should you go? Here again, standard rope length for most show ski ropes applies. 5-foot handle sections, 70-foot main lines. Make sure you're using a good polyethylene rope or show ski tack, in this case for the main lines, and you would end up with a 75-foot rope. That should be pretty good for just about every team out there. Now, here is the absolute best secret advice I can give to those teams who have not yet started doing this. If you notice, the main lines here are 2 different colors for these ropes, but they are actually both ballet ropes. Why are they different colors? You notice the braids are the same. Handle sections are the same. Why are the main lines different? This is something we found in running the national and world record ballet lines, which are absolutely massive. It's all about safety, and it's about helping out your pin pullers and your release people in the towboat. Yes, you can color code trunk lines too if you want, but if you ask any pinner, they're looking out far out at your skiers, especially as you get into these big lines, 20 ladies or more. I shouldn't say ladies. Sometimes it's the guys in there too. Yep, I'm looking at you, Mad City. When you have these massive lines, you should color code your ballet lines, the main lines, and section them off. So this team that you're looking at runs somewhere between 20 and 24 people per ballet line. Half of the main lines are white, half are pink, and then they're alternating on their 4 trunks coming back from the boat. So it'll go white, pink, white, pink. That really helps your release people know where those divisions are and who has to pull which trunk line and which release. I can't stress this enough. This was a game changer. It was not my idea by any stretch. This came from some safety people in the boat who said we need a better visual indicator because in the case of the world records, we were getting to be the length of a football field behind the boat. And they needed to know who was on what trunk. Doesn't matter if you're 300 feet back or you're 100 feet back running in your local show. Tremendous help. I would highly recommend everybody do this. Now, I also lump together the swivel ropes and the ballet ropes. Why? Because they should be the same. When you don't need those specialty ones for your star swivelers, for your swivel line and any other one person who doesn't have their own rope, just make your ballet line ropes and your swivel ropes the same if you are a tow hold team, obviously. They should be the same color. They should be interchangeable. Make sure they're the same length. And then you have one big grouping of ropes that can be used for either of those acts. Make sure you have enough to cover so you don't have to rewrap during your show. Now, if you are a team that does in between the legs as your primary and you do not do a toe hold in there, obviously your ropes will be different. You'll have to make 2 completely different sets.